Hi, good evening all. Very good evening. Good evening, Manoj. Good evening, Lava. Lydia, good morning. Good evening, sorry, yeah. Manoj, hi, good evening. चलो, good evening. कैसे सब लोग? Doing good? Yeah? Enjoying? Enjoying the session? Huh? Yeah, very good evening. Sudarshan, Angel, Tejas, Lakshmi. Very good evening. Good evening, Shahrukh. Yes, yes. Okay then. Okay. Chalo, good evening to all. Yes, good evening, Angel. Yeah. So yeah, now we'll start. Good evening, Lava. Good evening, Shikar. Yes. So this is this is a slide which tells you about the projects. So you already know what this project is going to give you. Okay. Some of the best projects would be selected, and you can win a bumper prizes. Okay, up to 20 lakhs. Six winners can get exclusive practical gift hamper, and plus one of the below you can see YouTube premium 90-day subscription, maths and science beyond books, 6 months superhero subscription, gaming with Unity. Okay, you can get Unity license worth Rs 1.3 lakh plus 1000 XPS points. In robotics, you can get robotics clubs IITG certificate. Scratch programming, you can get 6 months legend subscription. Chess, you can get magnetic chessboard. Okay, and the get rewards for attending live classes. You can read that attend live classes, 50 XPS, 25 attendance. Every percentage of attendance has some gift and some award. 25% attendance has 100 XPS point, 60% attendance has 200 XPS, 80% has 300 XPS plus eligible for bumper prize. And for the 100% attendance, you can get a surprise gift hamper from the practically. Okay. Yeah. Yes, Tejas. Very good evening. Yeah. Yeah. So now we'll start. So today we're gonna see the natural cycle. Okay, how nature actually restores the balance. How balance is actually restored in the nature, because these are really important for you to understand. Maybe you have heard, or maybe you have learned some part of it. Okay, but to visualize it in a different way, it's very important, because today we are upholding the responsibility of maintaining our social environment also. So that is why you should know how everything is getting restored naturally in the nature, and how we are disturbing it as a human, and what practice we should not do. Okay. Yeah. So very first, carbon cycle. Yeah. So with the carbon cycle, you can see the image there. What are those images? Can anyone tell me? One of the image you already know. What is that second image? Yes, you're right, Manoj. Very good. Uh, you can say coal, but it's a graphite. Okay, the one is diamond, everyone knows, and second is a graphite. Okay, yes. Chalo. So carbon cycle. What is carbon cycle? So look, every life on your earth is actually based on molecules. What are these molecules? These molecules are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, nucleic acid, vitamins, then after that hormones. Okay, different kind of enzymes. Do you know what? All these things actually are made up of carbon only. That means you have a hydrogen in them, you have a oxygen in them. You know there are some macronutrients. Macro means the nutrients which are present in a larger amount in our body, especially carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur. These are some of the macronutrients. Out of this, carbon is present in a large amount. Carbon is a integral part of all these molecules. Do you know the process of formation of coal which I have taught you earlier? That whenever the sedimentation occurs, because of high pressure and high temperature of the sedimentation rock and the layers, the nitrogen oxygen gas escapes, leaving behind the pure form of carbon, which is nothing but your coal, coke. Okay, coal and coke are one of the purest form of a carbon. Petroleum, diesel, these are not the purest form of a carbon because they have hydrogen, oxygen along with them. Okay, especially hydrogen, we call them as hydrocarbon. So the point is, carbon is one of those elements which persist for a very long time. It had been persisting or over the billion years on the earth. Okay, it is very difficult to remove or eradicate the carbon from the system. Okay, and that is why the biggest natural cycle and the most complicated natural cycle is of carbon cycle. Carbon, you know, it comes from nature to living organism. Okay, from nature we consume something, so carbon comes, it goes back to the living, it goes back to the nature by our other activity, for example excretion, excretion, respiration. Because of this it goes back to the nature, and this movement of carbon in a circular fashion is called as carbon cycle. Yes, Rika, you're right. Methane, yes, you can say. Methane, you also get the methane. Yeah. So now let's look at the carbon. So how actually movement happen? The movement of carbon from atmosphere to plants. Look, we all know that in a photosynthesis, plants absorb CO2, right? They absorb CO2 and along with by using sunlight and the water, they convert it into a glucose molecule by the process called photosynthesis. Now you might say, sir, this is very easy. Yeah, it is easy. Okay, you get the glucose molecule gets actually gets synthesized in the plants, and animal consumed it. Okay, and then animal release it back to the nature. Okay, when it goes to the nature, plant again consume it, and this cycle keeps on happening. But it is not that straightforward at all, because plants not only make the glucose of it, plant converts this glucose molecule or whatever carbohydrate plant make by the process of photosynthesis. They convert that carbohydrate into many other compounds, many nitrogenous compounds, many sulfur containing compounds, different kind of amino acids, that means proteins. Okay, so it gets converted into all those different kind of compounds other than carbohydrate. It also forms different kind of pigments. Okay, and all of this comes into the form of a food that we consume. Because you know, we not only consume the carbohydrate, we consume protein, we consume fats, oils. Okay, we consume this part also. Yeah, so process is quite simple. Yeah, this is your plant absorbs CO2, which then along with water and oxygen it converts that into CO2. Okay, this process everyone is known with. Yes, Chinna, you're right. CO2 H2O gives glucose H2O plus water. Good evening, Sai Charan. Yeah, so the thing is that, so plant ne, how carbohydrate was actually made by plant, we see it. Okay, now carbon moving from plants to animal. Now we know plants being consumed by herbivores, right, through which they take up whatever carbon the plant has, that becomes the part of their body, and they utilize it obviously for the production of energy. We also do that, right? We consume carbohydrate and we burn. We actually, the process of combustion happens in our body. We burn that carbohydrate for the formation of energy, which is we call it as ATP, okay, adenosine triphosphate, in our body. That releases CO2 gas, and we call that process as respiration, right? So that's CO2. Look at the cycle now. Look at this. So look, CO2 not only comes from the plant, CO2 not only comes only from the animals, it also comes from the industrial operations. Whatever industrial operation or whatever household activity that we perform, all of this, they releases CO2 gas. Plant absorb those CO2, again it releases, it forms this carbohydrate, plant, animal consume it and again releases CO2. Okay, but let me take it to the next step. Now whatever you had seen till now, this is very short power. I would say this is only a 1 or 2 dimensional carbon cycle. Carbon cycle is much bigger than that. This is the carbon cycle. Look, you have a green plants. Okay, green plants actually consumed by goat or any herbivore for that matter, deer also. These herbivores are then consumed by this lion. Okay, now lion also gives off CO2, goat also gives off CO2, so that CO2 again goes back to plant. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, goat may die other than eating by lion. So if it dies, then also by the process of decomposition it will release CO2. And the lion can also die. On dying, it releases, it get decomposes into organic and inorganic substances. Those organic and inorganic substances containing carbon in them, and it again gets consumed by your plant. Okay, so this is the, what I would say, another, this is the another way of your carbon cycle. So carbon cycle not only proceeds by the CO2 gas, it also proceeds by the decomposition of the carnivores or the herbivores, because on their decomposition it releases the organic inorganic substances which are present in the soil, and plants take up them, absorbs them, assimilate them in the plants. Okay, and then they use it for the production of different kinds of products in the plant. Okay, it's the nitrogen cycle also. Yes, Srikar, you are right. Look, Srikar, yeah, all the students, look, in nature, whatever I'm going to tell you or whatever any teacher has been taught you, we been teaching you in a segregative manner. Segregative manner means what? We are teaching you carbon cycle different, nitrogen cycle different, oxygen cycle different, water cycle different, but in nature everything happens hand in hand. That means it's not that if suppose in this region of Hyderabad carbon cycle is happening, in then therefore in Chennai nitrogen cycle will happen. It's not like that. All of these cycles goes together. They goes hand in hand together to restore the balance of the nutrients in the nature. That's how it actually happens. Deepika, what is the chemistry assignment? You will come to know better. I'll let you know. I'll tell you what is the assignment. Okay, you will get your assignment. Yeah, chalo. Now, as I told you, look at this part of carbon cycle also. Again, look, it is again not that simple. These are the living, this is the your plant is doing photosynthesis, that you already know now, but that CO2 also come from the root respiration. Okay, and that CO2 also come from the factory emissions, animal respiration, plant respiration, dead and waste products. And you might see, what is ocean uptake here? What does ocean do? See, your ocean absorbs, your ocean absorbs CO2. Okay, it absorbs, yes, ocean absorbs CO2. Do you know that this shellfishes? Yeah, everyone know what are the shellfishes? Shellfishes are actually, the shells are actually made up of carbonate. Shellfishes, they are having the carbonate in them. So this formation of carbonate happens in the ocean. It happens in the ocean. Okay, and this carbonate is actually consumed. This carbonate is consumed by the shellfishes to form the shell. Yes, you're right, Chinna. Ocean absorbs more heat from the sun. Yes, actually ocean absorbs the more heat from the sun. Okay, so that is what the whole carbon cycle is all about. Okay, it's a very complex. On sheets, I didn't get it, Lohitaksh. What are you asking? On shells? Shell. Yes, shell. The shellfish is actually, they are actually forming the carbonate. Carbonate has been formed in the ocean. Why? Because your ocean takes the CO2 form in the nature. So ocean is also responsible for decreasing the temperature of the earth. Okay, yes, chalo. So look at this final chart, basic carbon cycle flow diagram. Okay, so whatever combustion happens, it releases CO2. Green plants, when they get decomposed, you had seen that the green plant, when they dies, they get decomposed and they form this coal, fuel and all that, right? Petroleum products. That fuel and combustion gives CO2. That CO2 in the atmosphere is absorbed by plant by the process of photosynthesis, and this plant via their respiration and metabolism also releases CO2. So it gives back to the plants also. Now that CO2 can actually be dissolved and absorbed by your ocean or water also. Okay, that is what we have written here. Then animals respiration metabolism also gives CO2. Then plant can also die, right? Plant can die, animal can die. Both on dying, they undergoes the process of decaying, decomposition, that also releases CO2. Then that CO2 can also get composed by the, sorry, that CO2 can also get absorbed by the green plants which are living. Okay, so this is the whole multidimensional flow diagram of a carbon cycle. Okay, it's very complicated cycle. Okay, so I hope this must have been clear to you how carbon's balance is actually restored in the nature. Okay, how carbon is actually circulated. Yeah. So due to this shell, ocean absorb the heat as CO2 absorbs heat. Yes, Lohitaksh, very good. Tejas, practically basic, sir. Due to this shell, ocean absorb the heat as CO2. Yes, Lohitaksh, I got it. You don't need to write it again. I got it. Yeah. Due to this shell, ocean absorb the heat as CO2 absorbs the heat. Yes. So, in other words, oceans are also responsible for decreasing the heat of the atmosphere. Yeah. Okay. Chalo. Now we'll go ahead. So, I hope this must have been clear to you now. What is carbon cycle? This is the industrial image. Yeah. Yes. Yes, Sai Charan. So, the next is nitrogen cycle. Now, nitrogen cycle, how many places do we actually have a nitrogen? So, the image that you are seeing here, you can see the cytosine, guanine, adenine, uracil. These are the nucleic acids. Cytosine, guanine, adenine, uracil, then the thymine, okay? Thymine, these are nothing but the nucleic acid. All the nucleic acids are actually having a nitrogen in them. So what is the ratio of plants taking and exhaling of O2, sir? Why is the CO2 less than O2? CO2 is produced in factory, it is seen. O2 is taken by human. Is 21% O2 and 0.0% CO2 constant? Srikar, look, oxygen almost remain constant. The percentage of oxygen, yes, it may changes. Okay, but Srikar, you also need to remember the release of CO2 might increase. Why it might increase? Because if the industrial operations are happening more and more, that means large amount of CO2 will released. Now secondly, whatever CO2 that is being produced by industrial activities or by the respiration of animals and plants, that CO2 actually absorbed by the plant. Now plant converts this CO2 into O2 and other useful product. Now suppose if there is a excessive forestation, if suppose there is excessive deforestation, what does deforestation does? Deforestation decreases the amount of plants. So if the amount of plants or trees are getting decreased, the amount of CO2 absorbed by them will also decrease. When that happens, this CO2 remains. When this CO2 remains, obviously the percentage of CO2 in the nature will also increase. Okay, is it clear to you now, Srikar? Okay, what Samiksha is saying, adenine will always pair with thymine. Yeah, that's a part of biology now. Sir, why human takes only O2? Why can't we take any other gas? Okay, very good question, Lohitaksh. O2 will also decrease, sir. Srikar Kamma, yes, you can say, but it does not really. See, the amount of O2 that we have is very, very high. Okay, 21% O2 is too much. Now, let me take the question of Lohitaksh first. What he's saying is that why human take only O2, why we can't take any other gas? So, look, Rohitaksh, when humans were actually evolving, or I would rather say, when animals were evolving, when sir come one sent practically assignment link, sir. Yes, that is the moderator, Purvi ma'am. She had taken your lecture also. So she has sent the assignment link. Okay, I'll tell you what is assignment and you get the link also. So on that link, you have to submit the assignment. Okay, now let me come to the question. So look, Loitaksh and every other one. So when the evolution was happening, when every animal was actually forming, see what nature does. Nature always does. Nature always gets adapted. Nature always gets adapted to the situation or to the element which is maximum in amount. Now, for the respiratory gases, there are two kinds of gases available with us. One was nitrogen, one was oxygen. Now, you know that nitrogen is almost four times of your oxygen. The nitrogen present in the nature is almost four times of oxygen. Then why don't we inhale nitrogen? Why do we inhale oxygen? Okay. The reason for that, as I told you earlier, see, why do we take oxygen? What is the use of oxygen for us? Whenever you take the oxygen, the whatever food you have taken, that food undergoes combustion. That food undergoes combustion by the oxygen that you are taken, and that produces energy, ATP, which we use for our biological activities, right? Is this clear to all of you? Now suppose if in the starting process of the evolution, the nature must have started taking nitrogen also, but the thing is that nature came to know that nitrogen has a triple bond with it. If you look at the nitrogen, nitrogen has a triple bond. See, this is your nitrogen, this is your N2, okay, and oxygen has a double bond. So we inhale oxygen, we don't inhale nitrogen because nitrogen is also called as pseudo inert gas. What is mean by inert? Something which doesn't react that easily. Nitrogen doesn't react at all. So even if your body inhales nitrogen, your nitrogen won't be able to get decomposed, and sorry, not decomposed, nitrogen won't be able to break this bond. It won't be able to break this bond. And secondly, nitrogen cannot perform the combustion that is required for your biological activities. Only oxygen can perform the combustion of a food in your body for the production of energy. And that is why humans inhale only oxygen, no nitrogen. Is this clear to you now? Someone asked me. Loitaksh? Yeah. What is the use of that link? Tejas, whatever project you have done, you need to submit project on that link. That is what the purpose of that link. Angela is saying the low tax again, we will take CO2 at night and tree takes O2 at night. Yeah. Keshav is saying what is the project? Stable gas. Yes. Okay, good. Stable gas is called inert gas. No, Mohit, it's not like that. Not stable gas. Any gas which doesn't react that easily. Any gas which doesn't react that easily is called as a inert gas. And nitrogen, see in the periodic table, if you look at the periodic table, on the extreme right hand side, there is a column or there is a group for the inert gases. But nitrogen is not present there. Nitrogen is present somewhere else. But it does behave like an inert gas. But it is not actually inert gas. That's why we call it as a pseudo inert gas. Okay. I hope this must have been clear to you now. So what I mean to say here, look at this images in the middle. RNA, DNA. Your RNA, DNA is also containing nitrogen with them, right? So nitrogen is an integral part of our system. Mohit, yes, seventh group, yeah, eighth group is a noble gas, inert gas. Yes, yes, nitrogen is in the fourth group. No, beta. it's in the 7th group. But anyways, chalo. So now we will go ahead. So what are this? These are the fixing agents. So as I told you, you cannot, you and plants, animals or humans, we cannot take the nitrogen as such. We cannot inhale the nitrogen the way we inhale the oxygen. But our body does need nitrogen. Plants does need nitrogen. Every animal being and plant being, they do need nitrogen for their body. Okay, but you cannot inhale it. Reason I already told you. What was the reason? Because nitrogen is a kind of a pseudo inert gas, and that is why you cannot inhale it. You can only inhale oxygen. So what are the ways by which your nitrogen can actually get fixed? So what are the fixing agents? Dicot plants. You already know, if you have learned the biology, you know what is monocot, what is dicot. Okay, in this dicot plant there are root nodules. The image you can see here, these root nodules, these are the nodules you can see here. These root nodules, they have bacteria like nitrosomonas. Yes, someone write rhizobium, nitrosomonas, azotobacter. These are the names. Okay, nitrosomonas, azotobacter, rhizobium. Okay, so these bacteria are actually fixing the nitrogen. Okay, yes, two seeds are present. Yes. So apart from that, how actually nitrogen gets fixes? Look at this. In atmospheric fixation, whatever fixation happens naturally in the atmosphere, only 5 to 8% of the 8% of the fixation process actually happens with that. Okay, what happens in lightning? See, look at this image. You already have a nitrogen in the air. Okay, so if this is your cloud, okay, if if there is a lightning, okay, if there is a lightning in the clouds, what happens? This lightning decomposes this nitrogen. It decomposes this nitrogen to give you a single nitrogen atoms. This single nitrogen atoms and oxygen also gets decomposed. So this together reacts to give you N2O and NO3. NO3 are called as nitrates. NO3 are called as nitrates. N2 is called as nitrogen oxide. So this lightning breaks nitrogen molecules apart and combines with oxygen, forming nitrogen oxide, N2O. And this nitrogen oxide then gets dissolved in a rain, forming nitrates. These nitrates are then carried to the grounds with the rain. And when they are carried to the grounds, these nitrates then converted to the nitrites by the bacteria, and that nitrites then consumed by the plants for the preparation of a different kinds of amino acids and the protein. Yes, thundering, you can say yes, yes, you are right. If no nitrogen fixing nodule, plants will become insectivorous. No sir, yes, yes Manoj, very good. In some part of the Amazon forest, in some areas of Africa, plants do this. Plant actually, they eat the insects. Why do they eat the insects? Because for their biological activity they require large amount of nitrogen, and the insects are fully loaded with the nitrogen. Okay, so that's why plant actually eats them and consumes the nitrogen out of them. Okay, so as I told you, nitrogen oxides, it forms nitrates. These nitrates carried back to the ground with the rain, and then in the soil, they actually get fixed. Okay, nitrogen oxide, yes, plants use these nitrates to grow. So that's how nitrogen actually gets fixed. Now till here you saw only the first way, how nitrogen actually gets into the plants. Okay. So should we submit chemistry, physics, biology assignment in the same link? Yes, Sudarshan. Link is same. Listen everyone, this link is same for every other project. Okay. Chalo. Ha. So now look at this, the complete nitrogen cycle. The complete nitrogen cycle here. You can see this lightning, okay, this lightning does what? As I told you, this lightning releases N2O and the NO3 nitrates. These nitrates are then assimilated into the soil. In soil, these are the nitrogen fixing bacteria. This nitrogen fixing bacteria converts them to free nitrates, nitrites and ammonia. Okay, that's the first way. Second way, we animals excrete, okay, we urinate. So in our urine we have a urea, and other animal also they have urea or different kinds of products, excretory products which has nitrogen in them. So this rabbit, you can see here, this rabbit, when it excretes, it releases the excreta. That excreta on decaying, it's obviously organic matter, on decaying it also releases nitrates, nitrites and ammonia. So this three compound, nitrates, nitrites, ammonia, then got denitrified by the bacteria. These bacteria are called as denitrifying bacteria, which releases ammonia back into the atmosphere. That is the one way. Okay, and this nitrate, nitrites and ammonia can also be absorbed by the plants, and plants then been eaten by this rabbit is being eaten by the large carnivores, like that. So that's how the cycle gets completed. Phosphorus also present in urea. No, 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 Mohit. I'll tell you what is the formula of urea. This is urea, okay, NH2 C double bond O NH2, that is urea. There is no phosphorus, okay, there is no phosphorus beta. You can write, you can see that NH2 C double bond O NH2, okay. So this is the one way. Now let's look at how this fixation happens when there are animals, or I would say fishes, present in the ocean. See this, there are large number of nitrifying algae present in the ocean. These nitrifying algae are being eaten by the different kind of fishes. These are actually blue-green algae eaten by the fish. When the fish dies, their decaying organic matter, they gets decomposed, and on decomposition they also releases nitrates, nitrites and ammonia, which again then denitrifies by the denitrifying bacteria, getting released into the nature. It again getting absorbed, again goes to the lightning, again comes to the nature, like that. So that's how cycle is actually completed. And secondly, these are decaying organic matter, they also get denitrified in the ocean itself, releasing releasing nitrogen back to the nature. So that's the whole cycle of the nitrogen. Sir, we actually inhale nitrogen and other gases too, but what I have only nitrogen. Yes, Srikar, you are absolutely right, beta. We actually inhale all kind of gases, because you only think, no, had we not inhaling other gases, how would we able to smell? We can smell the things because we can inhale other gases also along with oxygen. Yeah, we can do that, we do that, but our body takes only oxygen and we inhale the other gases out. Okay, that these are the things. Okay, you will know, Sarita, what is project. Everyone will come to know what is project. Okay, for time being, please focus on the lecture and session. Okay, yeah, sure. So next cycle is your oxygen cycle. Now one of the most easiest cycle that we know, how oxygen cycle actually proceeds. You have atmospheric oxygen. Okay, plant releases oxygen by the photosynthesis process. This atmospheric oxygen then absorbed by the different kind of plants, animal, by the process of respiration. Okay, then this plants and animal releases CO2 and H2O also. H2O also goes out of our body. This CO2, H2O again consumed by plant. They again releases CO2. This is the one way. Okay, this way we already know. Second is that Plant prepare different kinds of compound. You can see the organic compound here, glucose, but other than that, there are different kind of compound also. Those compound are actually absorbed by animal, and that also get converted to the CO2. CO2 again goes to the plant. So that's how this cycle kept on happening. Okay? Oxygen cycle is actually not very complicated. Tell how to draw the structure. Which structure, Mohit? I didn't get it. Yes, Manoj, you're right. Anshul sir gave assignments. Okay. And what is Mohit simply how to draw structure? Which structures you're talking about? See, this is again the simple thing. Oxygen is there. Plant releases oxygen. Oxygen absorbed by your animals. Plants breathe oxygen. That again releases CO2. CO2 along with sun and your water prepares the food and oxygen. So this kept on happening. That's how your oxygen cycle is actually all about. Okay? It is not actually very complicated. It's very easy. Oxygen cycle. Yeah. Chalo. Now next is the water cycle. Now what is water cycle? The water cycle, you can see that how the water cycle actually happens. We Our earth is having almost 78 to 79% of the water. Okay, and in that water, what do we have? The 97% of that 79% is actually oceans, right? We have a large oceans around us. What do the oceans do? Whenever sunlight falls on the earth, the maximum part of the earth is ocean. So ocean absorbs the sunlight, the water gets heated, and it forms the clouds. Okay, these clouds then get formed in a large amount. These clouds, the cloud forms together. There's a formation of a large clouds because of the wind movement. Because of wind movement, these clouds move towards the part which has a land. That means terrestrial part, I would say. So when it goes to the high altitude region, there is a condensation happen of this clouds, and when this condensed clouds strikes with the objects like mountains and the high pressure region, the precipitation occurs. Precipitation means what? Nothing but the rain. So that's how downpour actually happen, and then via through the lakes, through the ponds, through the lakes, through the rivers, it goes back to the ocean. Okay, that's how the water cycle is. Water cycle is pretty simple. It is not at all complicated. It's very simple. It's water cycle. Share again assignments. Keshav, you will be coming to know about the assignments in upcoming lectures. Okay, chemical compound structure. That's what Chimo is saying. Chemical compound structure, like what do you want to draw? It's very easy of drawing that, right? There is no as such very complicated it. Chalo. So water cycle. Look at this jib. What this jib is all about? Clouds. Okay, your ocean from the clouds. So clouds also gives you downpour and water, rain, and some of the clouds getting converted to the snow also. Okay, when it melts, water comes to the ocean, and when the downpour or rain falls, some of the water also gets stored into the groundwater system. And in groundwater system, if there is an accumulation of large amount of water, there is a formation of stream in some part of the world, not every part. Okay, and there are some part you actually streams, you can see the streams forming in different part of the earth. Okay, we can also extract the water from the wells. Okay, suppose if I tell you a very can you tell me, is the amount of water which was present at the start of the earth is the same as today? The amount of water present on the earth is the same amount of water which was present at the initial phases of the earth, or was it changed? Can you tell me? No, no, no. Okay. How? Okay. Let me put it in a different way. Suppose whatever amount of water we have right now on the earth, even after 20 or 30 years, same amount of water would be there. Unless if there is no catastrophe, the amount of water that we have today will be the same even after 20 or 30 years. Yes, Manoj, you are using the water from underground. Now, look, let me tell you this very fantastic and astonishing fact to you. Look, the amount of water that we have at the start of evolution process, the amount of water we have that time and the amount of water we have right now is exactly same, because we are using water since the formation of earth. The amount of water that we have from the start of the earth until now is exactly same. Okay, and it is going to be same for the million years, unless if there is no catastrophe. Okay, apart from catastrophe, the amount of water that we have is always going to be same. It never changes. Now you might say, sir, the rivers are drying, ponds are getting drying, how you are saying this? See, if the rivers are getting dry, that means the water of the river is getting evaporated. If it is getting evaporated, where it's going? It's going into the atmosphere. That means it is still present in the atmosphere, right? So it is somewhere. The water is present somewhere. It is just that it is not accessible to you, but water is present somewhere. Okay, is everyone clear with this now? Water is same. The amount of water that we have initially, we still have the same amount of water on the earth. Only thing is that the question is if it is accessible to us or not. That is what the question is. Okay, now the next thing, what was I talking about? Yeah, the water. And you know what? The amount of water that we have present in the vapors, your earth is actually surrounded by the atmosphere. That atmosphere has 6 times as much water as there is present on the earth. Do you know that? The amount of water present in the gaseous form, in the form of water vapors, which is covering around the earth, it is as high as 3 to 6 times as the water present in the or on the earth. Formation of a soap. Can you please explain the formation of snow? Lava, see, whenever this water vapor form, this water vapor gets converted into clouds. Okay, if these clouds are going into the region where the temperature is very very less, where the sun rays are reaching to very less extent, when the sun rays are reaching to the very less extent in that area, the temperatures are drastically falls. If the temperature is very very less, and when the cloud reaches to that region, automatically that clouds getting converted from liquid state to the solid state, which is ice. And when the precipitation happens, instead of water, those snow starts falling. Okay, so it depends on the which region those clouds are actually going. If the clouds are going to the region where temperature is very low, the snowfall will happen, and other than that, rain will happen. Okay, that's how it is. Okay, so that is clear to you, Lava? Okay, chalo, let's move ahead. Now, the next part is ozone layer depletion. Now, can you tell me what does this ozone layer does? What does this ozone layer does? Clear, sir. Good. Condense of water and then forms water droplets, then snow will form, sir. Yes, you are right. O3 protects Earth from UV rays, protects from UV rays, UV radius, Earth from UV rays. Yes, all of you are right. Ozone. What is ozone? Ozone is a allotrope of oxygen. Oxygen is present in two forms, O2 and the O3. So O3 is your ozone. Ozone is present in a stratosphere. It is present in a stratosphere of the earth. This ozone layer which I have drawn here is nothing but it is present in a stratosphere of the earth. Look at this. Stratosphere. What does it do? It protects the earth from this harmful UV radiation. Whatever UV radiation you have released by the sun is actually absorbed by your ozone. Ozone absorbs it, because if that UV radiation started falling on the earth, it might increase the temperature of the earth drastically. Secondly, it might cause many people to infect, or I would say many people to develop the cancer, the skin cancer. Okay, so that's why UV radiation is not at all good for the flora and fauna. Flora means for the plants, fauna means for the animals. Okay, now in some of the recent years, the scientists have observed that the ozone layer, the many part of ozone layer has actually depleted, or I would say there is a formation of a hole in the ozone layer. Now hole means it is not something like you have a cloth and pierce it down and you make the hole out of that cloth. It's not something like that. In some part of the earth, the amount of ozone that part should have, it is having a less part of ozone. That means ozone is depleting in that particular region. Okay, so we will see what are the reasons and what are the consequences of it. Okay, so hole in the ozone layer. This violet color part is your ozone. The ozone is protecting us from the UV radiation. You come to know what is UV radiation. Okay, now in some part of the earth there is a formation of a hole. Now what is that hole? Yes, Srikar, you're right. You're right, Manoj. Yes, Manoj, Srikar, you're right. Very good. Shahrukh, you're also right. Tejas, you're right. Yes. In some part of Antarctica, people have observed that there is a formation of a ozone hole in that region. Formation of ozone hole means when you observe this from the satellite images, you come to know that that part is actually getting hot, or it is having very less amount of ozone. When that happens, the UV radiation start purging out from that region to the earth, and when that happens, it might melt the polar ice caps. If that happens, the flooding might happen. Okay, so what actually ozone does? Look at this, and how does ozone is getting depleted in some part of the earth. This is what this is. What is this? It's a molecule. Okay, see, these are the factories and homes which are releasing CFCs. What is this? What is this CFC? You might have heard it many times. CFC means it's a chlorofluorocarbon. Chlorofluorocarbon. It's a shortcut of chlorofluorocarbon. CFCs. CFCs mean the compound like this: hydrogen, fluorine, fluorine, chlorine, or chlorine, carbon, fluorine, chlorine, fluorine, fluorine. These compounds are called as chlorofluorocarbon, or carbon being attached with the 3 fluorine atoms, single chlorine atom. So these are the chlorofluorocarbon. Okay, so what happens? This chlorofluorocarbon, you can see, is being released by factories and homes. When it release that, sunlight, whatever sunlight, the UV part of sunlight does what? It breaks down the CFC in the atmosphere. So it actually breaks down this CFCs into chlorine radical. You will come to know what is this radical and all that when you go into the higher standard. When you go into the higher standard, you will come to know what is it. So this chlorine free radical does what? Let me write here. This chlorine free radical, when it reacts with O3, which is ozone, it destroys it. It converts it into O2 plus this O oxygen free radical. This oxygen free radical then again combines with another ozone to give you O2. So that means your single, mark my words or listen to me carefully now, this single molecule of chlorofluorocarbon releases the single chlorine atom, and single chlorine atom can destroy as high as 1 to 10 lakh ozone molecules, because this is a chain reaction. The one which I shown you right here, this is your chain reaction. What is chain reaction? In chain reaction, suppose A plus B reacts to give you C plus D dot. So that D dot reacts with next molecule to give you another product plus free radical. That free radical again reacts with next molecule. So this keeps on happening. This keeps on happening. This keeps on happening unless and until two same free radical combine. If there is a one more Cl dot combines there, then this process might stop. But unless that happen, this Cl dot, that is free radical, kept on reacting with the ozone molecule, and it kept on destroying it. And whenever ozone molecule gets destroyed, it gives you O2 plus O free radical. That O free radical again reacts with another ozone molecule to again break it down to oxygen. So this process actually destroys the ozone layer. And in some part of Antarctica, this process has happened to the very large extent, creating almost a hole in that region. And that is why people, many administrations in the very different countries, they have banned on the chlorofluorocarbon. Where do we release chlorofluorocarbon from? It actually gets released by the using of refrigerants. Okay, so chalo, I hope that must have been clear to you now how ozone layer actually gets decomposed. Okay, so this is the last thing what you can do to help this stopping the global warming. You can reuse the plastic. You can try having a compost in your yard. You can use both sides of paper, right? You can suggest your parent to buy a fuel smart car. You can plant trees. Don't keep the TV, VCR, DVD on standby. Keep lights off when you are not in the room. Consider public transport as alternative. Insulate your home, bike. Fill up the dishwater before using it. Okay, you can decrease the use of excessive petroleum products. So these are the measures by which we can stop, we can contribute for stopping the global warming. Okay, so that's it for today's lecture. So that is what is all about. Okay, we had seen the different kind of cycles, how ozone layer depletes and all that. Okay, chalo, that's it. Bye for now. Thank you. Ecological footprint, no sir. Yes, you are right. We can decrease the ecological footprint. Deepika, you will come to know about the assignment in the next lectures. Okay, you will come to know that. Yeah, chalo, that's it.